mean, to be completely honest about it, it says here that we're going to announce the top 5 issues. Well, difficult really, because there are more than 5. And I've been moving around from session to session and picking up something different from each one. So basically, it seems to me that this has been a very important stage as part of the development, ladies and gentlemen, perhaps even a turning point, actually. But this is certainly not the end. This is more like a stage in the development of an ongoing process. So I'm sure that we will be discussing this again. Who knows? With the same faces, we may come across each other in the not too distant future. And obviously, we're going to take all of us, I'm sure, will take a lot away from today. But no, there are more than 5 issues, but there are obviously ones that you keep hearing coming up. And as far as I'm concerned, moving from session to session, I hear that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet in the way that everybody wants to do something about fuel poverty and energy efficiency, but it's very complicated. It's how to streamline it, aggregate it, make it simpler, make it easier to be trained, to know what you're talking about, to have people who can actually go out with the skills needed to tenants, to be able to make a difference with the right advice and to make life easier for you in order to make life better for a whole lot of other people. So, I am going to basically, I'm not going to stare at any one of them in particular because that would be intimidating, but I think Helen and Steve and Richard here are going to just run through a few of the main issues that we've been running through upstairs that you have brought to their attention. Have a discussion, have a bit of a chat about them, and I'm sure that there will be reflections from you that you would like to bring to the fore again. So, Helen, would you like to start?
I mean, we've looked at the recommendations that come out, and some of those are something we can do something about straight away. Some of those are something that we can look at, we're going to have to look at in more detail to see what we can do. But what was really pleasing was there's some very concrete recommendations on how we can change what we're doing and how we can work with CHC better to support the CHC's members. And one of them was the first recommendation looking at networking in terms of delivering information and best practice, training on fuel poverty and energy efficiency for frontline staff. Well, this is obviously something we can work with CHC to deliver for members. We can look at a training programme, something that we've already started discussing the possibilities, and it's really good that that's come out as a concrete recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the workshop I was in, there were 4 associations, and what was pleasing was that this was issued high on their agenda, and they were almost come to a point where they need to jump to take the next step. And so I think this was regarded as one of the key things that needs to be in place to help them take the next steps. So, yeah, this is a now recommendation, not soon or later, a now one.
Absolutely.
And Richard, and certainly at the session that we were in together, grants were mentioned, the complicated grant system.
Yes.
So there is money available. Obviously there's a lot that can be done, but people don't know how to do it. They don't know whether there is money available and how to get it.
Yes, yeah, I think one of the key challenges for providers is in terms of actually working the way through the maze of complexity associated with the grant system. I mean, the paperwork can be mind-numbing in itself, and it always presents a huge challenge. I think certainly within the group that I was within, there was a sense that aggregating grant bids, aggregating activities is perhaps the way forward. And I think I would endorse that. Plus the information, centralised information for providing guidance on how to apply for grants and what grants go with what other grants and what grants cancel each other out. I think there's a lot of learning out there that needs to be shared with organisations such as yourselves.
But it's not just a question of money, is it? It's a question of, it's basically education and somebody else, I heard somebody else say, well, sometimes it's not just a question of throwing money at it. That's where the education and the training come in.
Yes. Yeah.
The next recommendation we looked at was one looking at the Welsh Housing Quality Standard, and that there was flexibility needed in order to tackle heating, energy and fuel poverty issues. Now obviously there's guidance about to come out on that, and also and that's how we respond to that, and the EST might want to respond to that is a now issue, but there's also the longer term issue of what will happen post 2012, the next level of the Welsh Housing Quality Standard and how that can be improved.
Yeah, I agree.
And perhaps the HC want to consult with the members.
Yeah, well, the members who were in some of the groups that I was sat in on were of the opinion that when the Welsh Housing Quality Standard was put together, it was in an era of much cheaper fuel. And given that we are in a completely different operating environment now, some sort of feedback to the government is going to be necessary around being a flexible framework to work.
So going down the list.
Yeah. The next one was, it's interesting, we sat around the table and I went, we've got a European Convergence funding bid on renewables, and CHC went, we've got a European Convergence funding bid on renewables. So that was quite a surprise. So there's, one of the absolute now actions is we need to sit down and work out how we can work together to avoid lots and lots of bureaucracy and duplication, and how we can maximise match funding, European funding, and really make this worthwhile schemes.
And we want a European Convergence funding bid as well.
Feel left out.
The plot thickens.
Then real data on I know this came up as a question earlier, the costs of building to the new levels of the Code for Sustainable Homes. There's lots of uncertainty about how it's all going to cost. Well, this is an area that EST in particular are looking at the moment. That's why we're working with sort of the first Code Level 5 and Code Level 6 properties, so we can actually get that data on how to do it in the best way and disseminate that. And that's part of the programmes that we talked about today. And what we've also done is recently produce a report on the avoided cost. If you build to the higher levels of the code, well, you don't necessarily need a central heating system. And so we're really looking at this area, and we'll continue to look at it. We don't have the answer right now. We don't have the definitive. It will cost you £3,400 and 20p. But we are beginning to gather data on the different sizes and types of properties and the rough costs, so that we will continue to add to that, and we will continue to disseminate that information.